This month, as we explore the topic of moving from good to great to grand by exploring our inner landscape, we will take stock of where we are in our own process, what values we aspire to, and how we can begin to live those values in new and powerful ways. Now it's time for me to introduce our speaker, our very own April Johnston Ulrich, reading with her message of the power of vision.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Do my usual housekeeping here. Yeah, okay. So, source, what I call God, or what I call source. What I call source, I'm getting dyslexic all of a sudden. So, for this, source was busy all day, alternating light with darkness. Light with darkness. And a little spirit came up and said, wow, that was amazing, that 24 hours of light and dark. What are you going to do now? Source thought about it and said, you know what, I think I'll call it a day. So, what a wonderful day. We got the sunshine, clouds are gone. That Pharrell song I kind of picked last minute because everyone I talked to this week said, when are these clouds going away? When are things gonna start being like spring or even a little bit of summer? So the contrast is why we came. I love that line because if we didn't get the rain, how many of us wouldn't have felt that sigh, that excitement when we woke up and saw the sun shining today? The contrast is why we come here. We have all those things in our lives that we work through and understand and contemplate. And we come here because we know that isn't what we want in our lives every day. The contrast lets us see what we truly want. So it was kind of interesting this week. I took last Sunday off, and I was very excited about my Sunday off because I had company coming, and I had all these plans, and ended up having to go visit, I got to go visit someone in the hospital for the day that needed to talk and etc. And while the afternoon hit, I felt a little twinge in my right eye. Thought it was a dry contact, popped it out, stuck it in my pocket because I didn't need it. I had one eye that was still good. By the time I got home, the upper part of my eye was out about probably 1.5 inches, which just looks lovely. So I said, oh, I think I've got like maybe pink eye, which I couldn't understand how I could have it since I didn't see anybody all week. So got up the next morning. The entire eye was swollen and black down to here. Wow. I was attractive. So, luckily enough, I live right beside the 24-hour eye care facility at Mr. Cordia Hospital. Pop over, sit there, long story short. I had 2 types of infection. I had a preseptal infection of the eye area, and I had a preorbital, which they were worried about because I guess it connects into the brain. Anyway, lovely doctor, treated beautifully, got my medication. You can see I'm a lot better. It's still a little red, but it's night and day. Actually, I forgot to tell you, both eyes closed by 2 days in. So I looked hilarious. I was going to show it, but I thought, you know what? You don't need to witness that for me. So what I laughed about was the minute I could see, I remembered my talk title. I had no vision. And now I was expected to talk about the power of vision. Now, if you're in this teaching, you understand nothing's by happenstance. Nothing just occurs. So I started to think, wow, what is this about that I literally cannot see? And I started to listen to some of my favorite people, and one being Kyle Seeks, I believe is his name. He's a comedian turned spiritual coach. And he talked about not knowing what you were going for is following spirit. Not having a plan, just allowing. And I thought, boy, do I ever do that? Do I allow myself just to be me? Just to let things flow? I think I do. But I know that there is more that I could accept that I don't have the answers for. That I don't have, I don't have the clarity that I sometimes would like. So I have to stop doing, stop trying, and be. So when we stop trying and we're just being who we are, what does that do?
Frees you up.
Any ideas?
Put you in the now.
Yeah, put you in the now, yeah. Exactly. It also allows space around you that is from spirit, that spirit can fill, right? And how much of us, when we're busy doing things, we don't take up that space ourselves. We're so busy running around trying to prove things, be things, all of those ideas. And yet if we just stop and we just allow that we don't know the next step, that we're not 100% sure where we're going, that we're going to allow to just be and listen to spirit. And let spirit fill out your space for you. Can you kind of feel that when that happens? When you're just quiet? A lot of the time it's meditation. And as Kyle C. says, the first 6 minutes are horrible, and you want to get up and you want to run away. And the next 10, not so bad. And then you drift in to that beautiful sense of filling the space. That there's nothing missing. There's nothing you have to do. So this whole month we've been talking about values. Living from your own personal values. What does this all have to do with anything is authenticity. So when you have your own personal values and you do the steps that Steph went over last week, and you practice alignment and intention and allowing, that raises you up. That raises you and fills out all your space. You get to be exactly who you were put on earth to be. You're having this experience as you. Now, when I started doing the speaking, I used to watch different speakers that I loved and tried to emulate them, probably to a little bit, tried to work them in, right? A little bit of Michael Beckwith. I was kind of jumping around for a while. A little bit of, Marianne Williamson, being very sort of stoic and lovely, breathy breath. None of them were me. So nothing I did was authentic. Wasn't me up here, right? It was a bad copy of Michael Beckwith and Marianne Williamson. How many of us do that? We dress in what they tell us to dress. Right? No individualization. We eat what they tell us we should eat. Maybe not always what we enjoy. They tell us how we should do everything, and we follow. Where are you in that? Where are your values in that? Make space for you. So, when you're authentic, when you're truly you, how do you feel about other people? Any ideas? When you're feeling good about yourself, when you're feeling all that, like, oh, look at me. I'm pretty bloody amazing. Who wouldn't love this, right? When you're feeling like that, what are you thinking about other people? The same. You don't care. You go out, you're dancing, somebody comes up beside you, they're doing the chicken dance or whatever. You don't care. You don't go back to your table and go, oh my God, did you see that person do the chicken dance? This is just terrible. You don't do that, right? Because you're feeling good about yourself. You're being authentic. And when you're authentic, you create space for someone else to be authentic. You create space for their individuality. It doesn't irk you. It doesn't irk you that somebody wore white shoes after September or, you know, one of these crazy constructs that people say, why? Why are we doing this? And you go, well, I don't know. It's the way we've always done things. That is something that I'm hoping we can eliminate, is that idea of that is how we've always done it. Right? Edgewalkers. Finding the newness in the situation. Finding what no one's done. And then doing it. But doing it authentically as this center. And allowing everyone that expression of their true self. So when you look at truth and reconciliation, the first part of that is truth. So what is the truth? The truth is being okay and secure enough in your own life when you can hear someone else's truth, even if it makes you really uncomfortable. Because in witnessing another's authenticity, their truth, allowing space for that to be, that creates the world we talk about in our mission statement all the time. Because there can be no reconciliation, no oneness. I mean, there's always oneness, but the concept, the feeling of oneness, unless we hear the truths. And that is also with your friends and family. Sometimes those uncomfortable conversations that you don't know where they're going is a chance to hear their authentic self. So when's the last time you did that? When's the last time you sat across from someone who maybe irked you a bit, and you didn't feel the need to cut them off in the middle of their conversation because what they were saying was making you really uncomfortable? And I don't mean on things that go against your values. I mean on things that you just maybe never thought of, didn't hear, didn't understand. Because if they go against your values, absolutely, you have the right. And you should say something, because that's what we're protecting. But not if it's just an opinion, right? Why are we so scared of opinions? That's all they are. They're just thoughts. They're just going through someone's head, probably out of their mouth, before they stop to think about it. Because I've done it, and I'm sure all of you have done it. And yet we very rarely give that space or that understanding to other people who just do it, right? I know around here for a long time ago, I haven't heard people do it in years. When someone got sick, they would say, oh, so what's in your consciousness? And you get the concept. They're trying to bring awareness to the fact we create our experiences. But it doesn't seem very compassionate or allowing the space for the person to just be crappy for a day, right? And that says a lot more about the person saying it than the person experiencing the crappy day. It's like, I am uncomfortable with your negativity, so I need you to shift it so I feel better. And that doesn't give that space, right? Doesn't give that space at all. I love a movie called Joy, and I think I've told this story before, Inside Out. Animated show on in the theaters, number 2 is coming out. And there is a number of characters that these emotions are in a little girl, 12 years old, so we all know what was going on with her. And it was joy and anger and sadness. Oh, and excuse me, I can't remember the last one. But joy ran around trying to quieten all the other ones. So whenever sadness comes, joy would be there trying to push sadness out of the way and take control. Halfway through this movie, my daughter happened to be with me. I looked at her and I said, "Joy's annoying, isn't she?" And she smiled and she said, "Yeah." And I said, "I'm Joy, aren't I?" And she said, "Yes, you are." And I realized I didn't give that space. I took an animated show to show me that I wasn't given space to sadness, to all the other beautiful emotions. And the contrast is why we're here. So what are you giving space to? What isn't occurring in your life? What do you need to be so sure of the next step that you can't say, "You know what, I don't know. I'm lost. I'm just going to let it go today. I'm not going to do a bunch of things. I'm just going to let it go." What would that be like? Could you handle it? Or would you feel like you needed to fill in that space without allowing it? I heard a really wise person say once, I wish I could remember their name because they're very wise, might have been me, said that if somebody eats, if a man or woman can feed and house their children and have a certain standard of life, they will never go to war. Never. So think about that. Think about all the uprisings, simple thing. If we allow people this space, even the monetary space, because money is energy, if we had this space for others to have a decent living, that changes everything for all of us, right? The authenticity, allowing others to be and thrive. I think that, to me, is what's such a wonderful concept. So I heard there's Mark, I'm going to forget his name, he's a professor at Harvard. I think I mentioned this before, was talking about emotions. One of the questions that was asked of him was about resentment. And they said, "Is resentment anger?" And he said, "No, actually, resentment is the emotion of envy. So when you resent someone, you're probably envious of them." And I thought, well, that's not it, because I get home and the dishes aren't done. I'm resentful that they're sitting watching TV. And what was wonderful when I heard this is I wasn't resentful they were watching TV. I was resentful that I didn't have that carefree way that I could just leave them and go do my thing. Right? I couldn't stand the idea of them coming home and going, "Oh, you never got the dishes done." Like it would throw me. Right? So isn't that interesting? So if you look at somebody getting something, somebody having something special happen to them, if you feel resentment, that's a really great indicator that you're envious of what they've got, not that you're angry at them. So a lot of the time when we want to allow others that opportunity to be their authentic self, there can be fear involved in that. What if they're better than me? What if Audrey's a way better teacher at Beyond Limits than I'll ever be? What if? Right? What does that do for me? That shows me where my fear is. That shows me the last obstacle that I need to brush out of the way and allow. It should be a big red sign. Allow, allow, allow. Whatever's coming is coming. Now there's a wonderful quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." And this is so interesting because when I started, I was talking to you about living your values. Those core values we've discussed, and if you never saw it, please go online. I think we're getting some of them posted up, and I know Shoda's lovely in posting some on Facebook. If you look through the weeks of this past month, you'll see a beautiful progression of understanding your values, living by your values. When you get a little off course, the steps to make your values stronger in your life. And I get the lovely one of showing how to expand that to someone else. So if we've done that heart coherence exercise, where we get out of the head, we get into the heart, right? I'm asking you to go to the heart when you're thinking anything about someone else, or you're having an experience that maybe draws resentment or little nervousness, or there's fear involved. Ask the heart what it feels. Ask the heart about this situation, because the heart will always align with your values. The head might tell you, well, you're justified. They were treating you really bad, or he cut you off in traffic, or someone dropped their cane in the middle of whatever it is, right? Go to your heart, right? They have the right. Let it go. They're being them. And what a wonderful thing that is. When I mentioned Kyle Cease before, he does this whole bit on what if Michael Jackson was your leader? And you heard him singing, and you're like, wow, you're very talented. Oh, no, I can't sing. It won't work out to be a waiter. What if those people that we admire, singers, politicians, whatever it is, didn't follow through on what they believed? Didn't let you see their authentic self? And don't we know it when we see an authentic as opposed to an unauthentic person? Like, it's almost instant, especially if you've been in this teaching for a while. It's like we work that sixth sense a lot, and we can tell when somebody's being inauthentic. So, wouldn't it be wonderful that everybody walks in, feels free to be exactly who they are? That anyone here can do whatever they want, and they would be accepted for who they are. What would it look like? What would this center look like? And what would the world look like? So we talk about meeting, and this will be my last point, meeting our own sense of obligation to be ourselves, put ourselves forward. Then we move to allowing others the space to be themselves and live by their values. And then we move into, who are you when there's no one watching? So if you go home and run through all the thoughts that are negative, even if you don't say them to someone, you're putting those obstacles for your own ascension or spiritual growth, because you're putting all those little negative obstacles, right? And it's interesting because people will sometimes say, well, people aren't nice. Some people just don't deserve it. And in the real world, April, I get that a lot in the real world. Right? The real world, if you noticed, is a very negative place. It's always got the illness. Well, in the real world, some of us have a lot of sickness. It's always an excuse to step away from our spiritual path. Right? So if you find yourself saying to someone, well, in the real world, you have to pay bills. It's not denying reality. It's just when you say something like that, I think it denies the reality I believe in, that everything flows as I'm open to it, and it is to come into my life. So, I got my vision back. I would like to say I'm going to be doing a visioning session at the end of June. It's free. So it's for your own personal visioning. And it usually takes about a half an hour from beginning to end. So that'll be June 30th, right after service. So I hope some of you will come. And it might sound interesting that I spent pretty much the entire conversation talking about not knowing your next step and allowing Spirit, but visioning is actually a spiritual tool for doing exactly that. You go into the silence and you listen. You listen for direction. If you're hearing in your mind things like, I am meant to earn $1 billion this week, chances are that's the brain. But if you feel a calling that, it can be words or symbols, etc. Nothing quite set in perfect sentences, that is visioning. Because that's how Spirit talks. It's like a symbology. Little things that are just personal to you. And that's why it's really important that you know yourself. Because if you come expecting to be someone else to the vision, maybe you won't get the answers you're looking for. Because they're just meant for you and your truth. So, stick to your values. Allow others to be themselves. And let's create a world that works for everyone. And so it is.